For the past 9 years, my life has been ruled by libraries, labs, and a very unhealthy relationship with caffeine. I just finished my PhD in molecular biology, which is a fancy way of saying I've spent nearly a decade explaining to people at family holidays that, no, I'm not just a doctor of plants. It hasn't been glamorous. While most people my age were traveling, dating, or figuring out who they were, I was working 12-hour days on experiments that failed more often than they worked. I missed birthdays, family vacations, even funerals because I was so deep in the grind. There were nights I slept in my office, mornings where I cried into instant noodles, and weekends where the only people I saw were other equally exhausted grad students. But all of that sacrifice had one shining point on the horizon: graduation. Not just walking across a stage, but graduating as valedictorian of my program. It wasn't a title they just handed out. It meant my research had weight, my work mattered, and maybe selfishly, it was my one moment where I wouldn't be in the shadow of my older sister Cindy, the family's golden child. Cindy went into business, the kind of vague consulting that looks glamorous on Instagram and somehow pays for rooftop brunches every weekend. She's always been the one my parents brag about. She's social, charismatic, a natural leader. Meanwhile, I've been the nerd in the background, the one they'd occasionally pat on the shoulder with a half-hearted, "We're proud of you too." Still, I thought this day would be different. This was my moment. I sent my parents the schedule months in advance, bought them seats, even picked out a nice restaurant for us to celebrate afterward. For once, the spotlight would land on me. Or at least, that's what I thought. The morning of graduation, my parents texted me a short clipped message. "Sweetheart, we're so sorry. We're feeling a little too tired today to make the drive. But we're proud of you. Send us pictures." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Tired. That was the excuse. Not sick, not hospitalized, not trapped by some emergency. Just tired. I wanted to scream, but instead, I swallowed it. I told myself, fine, it's okay. I'll get through this. It's still my day. So I put on the cap and gown. I shook hands, smiled for photos, listened as names were called one after another. It felt hollow without them in the audience, but I clung to the idea that maybe later, when I sent them the video of my speech, they'd feel guilty enough to regret missing it. And then the universe decided to twist the knife. There was a hiccup with the sound system before my speech, some awkward 10 minutes where the technicians fiddled with wires while we all sat in silence. I pulled out my phone to distract myself, and that's when I saw it. Instagram. My parents, seated at a restaurant I recognized instantly. My sister Cindy across from them, champagne in hand, the table covered with appetizers. The caption, written by my mom, "So proud of our girl for landing her biggest client yet. Time to celebrate Cindy's success." My hands went cold. I screenshotted everything and DM'd them the posts. My message was short. "Really? You couldn't come to my graduation because you're at lunch with Cindy?" The reply came fast, like they'd been waiting for me to notice. "Honey, we didn't want to upset you, but this was important. Cindy worked so hard for this client. We wanted to be there for her. You understand, right?" No, I didn't understand. I sat there in my valedictorian robes, about to give the speech I'd worked toward for nearly a decade, while my parents clinked glasses with Cindy over some business deal. They had chosen again, and it wasn't me. The technician finally gave a thumbs up. The microphone crackled back to life. It was time for me to walk on stage, and something inside me shifted. When they called my name, I walked onto the stage with a smile that felt carved into my face. The applause was polite, respectful, the kind you give to someone you don't know but assume deserves it. For a brief second, I wished I could disappear into it. Just give the speech I'd practiced, thank the professors, leave with quiet dignity. But then I thought about my parents raising their glasses to Cindy while I stood here alone. I thought about all those years of sacrifice, every holiday missed, every night I went without sleep, and the fact that it was still never enough to drag their attention away from her. And I knew what I had to do. I began the speech the way you'd expect, talking about hard work, resilience, how we'd all been tested beyond what we thought we could endure. I even heard some of the faculty nodding along. But then my tone shifted. "Here's the truth," I said, my voice steady. You can't spend your life waiting for applause. Because applause is fickle. One day you'll get it, the next day you won't. If your success depends on whether or not other people bother to notice it, you're going to starve. You have to be motivated by your own success, by the work itself. Because sometimes the people you expect to be there for you won't be. The auditorium went very still. I could feel the weight of the room leaning in. And that's when I reached for the remote. The projector behind me flickered to life. On the massive screen, larger than life, appeared the Instagram post. My parents and Cindy, champagne glasses raised, smiles wide, the caption glowing like a knife. Gasps rippled through the audience. I clicked again, and there were the screenshots of the DMs. My mother's neat text. This was important. Cindy worked so hard for this client. We wanted to be there for her. A murmur swept through the crowd, half shock, half gleeful disbelief. Phones came up. People started recording. I didn't flinch. I used to think success meant being celebrated, I said, staring out at the sea of faces. But today I learned it means walking across the stage even if no one is clapping. It means giving your best even when the people who should care most don't. So, to my fellow graduates, don't wait for anyone else to validate your worth. Not your bosses, not your friends, not even your family. The only person you really have to impress is yourself. The silence broke into thunderous applause. Real applause. Not polite, not obligatory, fierce and alive. And somewhere in the chaos of that moment, I smiled for real. The applause hadn't even faded before my phone buzzed in my pocket. More DMs. My parents. I didn't hesitate. With one flick, the messages appeared on the projector for everyone to see, each one landing like a hammer. Mindy, how could you embarrass us like this? Take this down right now. People are watching. This is cruel. You're making a scene. The crowd gasped, some students laughing outright. The messages kept rolling in, desperation dressed up as indignation. I didn't look away. Instead, I raised my voice above the murmurs. This, I said, gesturing to the screen, is what fear looks like. Fear of being exposed. Fear of being held accountable. And if you let fear like this dictate your choices, it will own you. It will tell you to shrink, to stay silent, to accept scraps when you deserve more. Another ping. Another angry line lit up the screen. We did this for your sister. Stop being so dramatic. I let the audience see it. Let them drink it in. You see, forgiveness is not free, I said, my voice unshakable now. It is not something to be demanded the moment you are caught. Forgiveness is earned. It is clawed back through change, through action, through time. And when people show you who they are, you get to decide if they've earned the right to your forgiveness. Silence, except for the occasional buzz of another incoming message, each one another nail in the coffin of their defense. I closed my speech with the same steady smile. So to my fellow graduates, be stronger than what makes you afraid, because sometimes the very people you thought were your foundation will be the ones trying hardest to keep you small. Do not let them. Do not wait for them. Build yourself anyway. The standing ovation was deafening. I walked off stage with my head high, the projector still flashing with the frantic texts of two people who had finally lost their grip on me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't care if they were proud.